You're feeling great, spreading positive vibes all around. Your energy is high, and life seems to be going your way. But wait, something doesn't feel quite right. There's a nagging feeling in the back of your mind. Could it be that someone is taking advantage of your good nature? Today, we're diving deep into a critical issue that affects many high vibrational people. How to spot when others are using you for their own gain. Now, you might be thinking, but I love helping others. Isn't that what being spiritual is all about? And you're right, to a point. Giving and sharing your positive energy is beautiful. It's one of the things that makes high vibrational people so special. But here's the catch. If you don't learn to recognize the signs that someone is taking advantage of your kindness, you might find yourself constantly giving your energy to the wrong people. And let me tell you, that road leads to feeling drained, unhappy, and lost. Think about it this way. Your energy is like a beautiful, bright light. It has the power to illuminate the lives of those around you. But if you let everyone and anyone draw from that light without limits, what happens? That's right. Your light starts to dim. And a dimmed light can't help anyone. That's why protecting your energy isn't selfish. It's necessary. It's crucial for maintaining your high vibration and living your best life. After all, you can't pour from an empty cup, can you? So what's the solution? Knowledge is power, my friends. In this video, I'm going to share with you 7 clear signs that someone might be using you. But I'm not going to stop there. Oh no, I'm also going to equip you with the tools you need to protect yourself. By the time we're done here, you'll be better prepared to guard your energy and surround yourself with genuine connections. Sounds good, right? Now, before we dive into these signs, I want you to know something important. Recognizing these signs doesn't make you any less spiritual or kind. In fact, it makes you wise. It shows that you value yourself enough to set healthy boundaries. And when you take care of yourself first, you actually have more love and energy to share with the world. Isn't that what being high vibrational is really all about? Let's start with a sign that many of us have experienced at some point. The person who only contacts you when they need something. You know the type, right? They seem to vanish into thin air when everything's going well, but the moment they need a favor or some emotional support, suddenly they're blowing up your phone. Picture this scenario. You haven't heard from your friend Sarah in weeks. You've sent a few messages, maybe tried to make plans, but she's always busy or going through something. Then, out of the blue, she calls you in tears. She's having a crisis and needs your help right away. Of course, being the caring person you are, you drop everything to be there for her. But once the crisis is over, poof, she's gone again until the next time she needs you. Now, don't get me wrong. Being there for friends in need is a beautiful thing. But healthy friendships are a two-way street. There's a give and take, a balance. If you find that your relationship with someone is all give on your part and all take on theirs, that's a red flag. So, how do you spot this sign? It's all about noticing patterns. Take a step back and look at your interactions with this person over time. Are they balanced? Do they show interest in your life and well-being when they're not in crisis mode? Or do they only seem to remember you exist when they need something? Remember, true friends are there for the good times and the bad. They celebrate your victories and support you through your struggles, just as you do for them. If you're always the one giving support but never receiving it, it might be time to reevaluate that relationship. If you recognize this pattern with someone in your life, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to cut them out completely. Sometimes, people aren't aware of their behavior. A gentle conversation might be all that's needed. You could say something like, "I've noticed that we only seem to connect when you're going through a tough time. I care about you, and I'm always here to support you, but I'd love for us to spend time together in good moments too. What do you think?" If the person genuinely cares about you, they'll likely be receptive to this feedback and make an effort to change. But if they get defensive or dismiss your feelings, that's another red flag. Remember, setting boundaries isn't mean or selfish. It's a necessary part of maintaining healthy relationships and protecting your energy. Now let's move on to our second sign, a phenomenon you might have experienced but found hard to put into words. Have you ever spent time with someone and afterwards felt completely drained, even if nothing particularly bad happened? If so, you might have encountered an energy vampire. Energy vampires are tricky because their effect on you isn't always obvious in the moment. You might even enjoy their company while you're with them. But once you part ways, you suddenly feel exhausted, irritable, or just off. It's as if they've sucked all the positivity right out of you. Here's the thing. Most energy vampires aren't doing this on purpose. They're not cackling villains, twirling their mustaches, and plotting to steal your good vibes. Often, they're people who are struggling with their own low energy or negative emotions. Unconsciously, they feed off the positive energy of others to feel better themselves. As a high vibrational person, you're likely very empathetic. You can sense when others are struggling, and your natural instinct is to help. This makes you particularly vulnerable to energy vampires. You want to lift them up, to share your light with them. But if you're not careful, you might find yourself depleted in the process. So how do you know if you're dealing with an energy vampire? Pay attention to how you feel after spending time with them. Do you feel tired, even if you haven't done anything particularly strenuous? Do you have a headache or feel slightly ill? Do you suddenly feel anxious or down when you were in a great mood before? These could all be signs that your energy has been drained. It's not just about physical symptoms, though. Energy vampires can affect your emotional state, too. You might find yourself feeling overwhelmed by their problems, or taking on their negative emotions as your own. You might start to dread interactions with them, even if you can't quite put your finger on why. Here's a crucial piece of advice. Trust your feelings. Your body and your intuition are incredibly wise. If you consistently feel drained or negative after spending time with someone, that's a clear signal that something isn't right. It doesn't mean the person is bad or that you need to cut them out of your life entirely. But it does mean you need to be mindful of how much of your energy you're giving them. So, what can you do if you recognize an energy vampire in your life? One technique is to visualize an energy shield around yourself before interacting with them. Imagine a bubble of bright, protective light surrounding you. This shield allows positive energy to flow out, but blocks negative energy from coming in. Another strategy is to limit the time you spend with energy vampires. If you know that an hour-long lunch leaves you feeling drained, try meeting for a quick coffee instead. It's okay to create some distance. Remember, you're not responsible for managing other people's energy. After interacting with an energy vampire, make sure to take some time to recharge. This could mean spending time in nature, meditating, engaging in a hobby you love, or simply being alone for a while. Whatever fills your cup, make sure to prioritize it. Remember, setting boundaries with energy vampires isn't about being unkind. In fact, it's an act of compassion, both for yourself and for them. By maintaining your own energy, you're better equipped to be a positive force in the world. And by not allowing others to depend on you for their emotional well-being, you're encouraging them to find their own source of positive energy. Now, let's talk about a sign that can be particularly challenging for high vibrational people: the person who doesn't respect your boundaries. This sign is crucial because it directly impacts your ability to maintain your energy and well-being. First, let's clarify what we mean by boundaries. Boundaries are the limits you set to protect your physical, emotional, and mental well-being. They're like invisible lines that define where you end and others begin. For high vibrational people, who often have a deep sense of connection with others, setting and maintaining boundaries can sometimes feel challenging. But it's absolutely necessary for your spiritual and emotional health. So what does it look like when someone doesn't respect your boundaries? It can show up in many ways. They might show up at your house uninvited, expecting you to drop everything and entertain them. They could overshare personal information, making you uncomfortable. Or they might pressure you to do things you're not comfortable with, using guilt or manipulation to get their way. Let's consider an example. You've had a long, tiring day at work, and you're looking forward to a quiet evening at home to recharge. Suddenly your doorbell rings. It's your neighbor Jane, who's decided to pop by for a chat. She knows you're home and won't take no for an answer. Before you know it, your plans for a peaceful night are derailed, and you're playing host when all you want is some alone time. Or consider this scenario. You're having lunch with a coworker, and they start sharing intensely personal details about their life. Their marital problems, family issues, health concerns. Suddenly you're carrying the weight of their world on your shoulders. You feel overwhelmed and uncomfortable, but you don't know how to stop the flood of information. Another common boundary violation is when someone pressures you to do something you're not comfortable with. Maybe they're trying to convince you to go to a party when you've already said you're not up for it. Or perhaps they're pushing you to lend them money, even though you've told them you're not in a position to do so. They might use guilt trips or emotional manipulation to try to get their way. For high vibrational people, these situations can be particularly challenging. Your natural inclination is to be kind, to help others, to avoid conflict. You might worry that setting boundaries will make you seem less spiritual, or that it goes against your desire to spread love and positivity. But here's the truth. Setting healthy boundaries is not only okay, it's essential for your spiritual growth and well-being. One of the most powerful tools in maintaining your boundaries is learning to say no. It's a small word, but for many of us, it can feel incredibly difficult to use. We worry about hurting others' feelings or coming across as selfish. But remember this: saying no to things that drain you or make you uncomfortable allows you to say yes to the things that truly matter to you. Saying no doesn't have to be harsh or confrontational. You can be kind and firm at the same time. For example, if someone shows up uninvited when you need alone time, you could say, "I'm so glad to see you, but I'm not up for company right now. Can we plan to get together another time? This acknowledges their desire to connect while still protecting your own needs. When it comes to boundaries, consistency is key. If you sometimes let people push your boundaries and other times you don't, it sends mixed messages. It's okay to be flexible when you choose to be, but make sure it's a conscious choice, not because you feel pressured or guilty. Remember, setting boundaries is a form of self-care, and self-care isn't selfish. It's necessary. When you take care of yourself, when you protect your energy and your peace, you're better equipped to be there for others in a meaningful way. You can't pour from an empty cup, as the saying goes. Here's something else to consider. When you set healthy boundaries, you're not just helping yourself. You're also setting an example for others. You're showing them that it's okay to prioritize their own well-being. In this way, maintaining your boundaries can actually be a gift to those around you. Dealing with people who push your boundaries can be challenging, but it's also an opportunity for growth. Each time you assert your boundaries, you're strengthening your sense of self. You're practicing self-respect and self-love. And you're creating space in your life for the kind of relationships and experiences that truly nourish your soul. Think of your energy as a precious resource. Because it is. You wouldn't let someone come into your home and take all your valuables, would you? So, why let someone drain all your energy? By setting and maintaining healthy boundaries, you're ensuring that your energy exchanges with others are balanced and mutually beneficial. From a spiritual perspective, setting boundaries is about honoring your own divine nature. You are a unique expression of the universe with your own purpose and path. By setting boundaries, you're creating the space you need to fulfill that purpose and walk that path. It's not about closing yourself off from others. It's about ensuring that your interactions with others support your highest good. As you get better at recognizing when someone is pushing your boundaries and learn to assert yourself, you'll likely notice something amazing. You'll feel more empowered, more in control of your life and your energy. You'll find that your relationships become more authentic and fulfilling, and you'll have more energy to devote to the people and activities that truly light you up. It's a good idea to regularly check in with yourself about your boundaries. Are there areas of your life where you feel your boundaries are being pushed? Are there relationships that consistently leave you feeling drained or uncomfortable? These are signs that it might be time to reassess and reinforce your boundaries. Remember, it's never too late to start setting healthier boundaries. Even if you've had a pattern of letting others push your limits, you can begin to change that today. It might feel uncomfortable at first, and that's okay. Change often does, but with practice, it will get easier, and the benefits to your well-being will be immense. As we move forward in our exploration of the signs that someone might be using you, keep this in mind. Recognizing these signs and learning to protect your energy isn't about becoming less loving or less spiritual. It's about becoming more authentically you. It's about creating the space you need to let your light shine even brighter. In our next sections, we'll dive into more signs to watch out for, including the chronic victim, the jealous friend, the promise breaker, and the taker who never gives back. Each of these signs offers its own challenges, but also its own opportunities for growth and self-discovery. Remember, your energy is precious. You have the right and the responsibility to protect it. By doing so, you're not just taking care of yourself. You're ensuring that you have the energy and the strength to be a true force for good in the world. So as we continue this journey together, I invite you to stay open, to trust your intuition, and to be gentle with yourself. Recognizing these signs and changing your patterns takes time. But with each step you take towards protecting your energy and setting healthy boundaries, you're creating a life that's more aligned with your highest self. Are you ready to discover more? Let's move on to our next sign. But before we do, take a moment to reflect on what we've covered so far. Have you recognized any of these signs in your own life? How might your life change if you started setting clearer boundaries? Remember, awareness is the first step towards positive change. You've already taken that step by being here, learning and growing. And that, my friend, is something to be proud of. Let's dive into our next sign, the person who always seems to be the victim. You know the type, right? No matter what happens, it's never their fault. They always have a story about how the world is against them, how they've been wronged, or how unfair everything is. Picture this. Your friend Mark calls you up, upset about losing his job. "It's not fair," he says. "My boss had it out for me from day one, and now the economy's terrible, so how am I supposed to find work?" This isn't the first time you've heard this kind of story from Mark. Last month it was about his breakup. "She just couldn't handle how successful I am." And before that, it was about his family. "They never supported my dreams." Now don't get me wrong, we all go through tough times, and it's natural to need support and understanding when we do. But for the eternal victim, every situation is a catastrophe, and they're always the one being wronged. They have a knack for turning every conversation into a pity party with them as the guest of honor. Here's where it gets tricky for high vibrational people like you. Your natural empathy and desire to help others can make you an easy target for these eternal victims. You want to support them, to lift them up, to help them see the bright side. But here's the catch. They don't really want solutions. They want attention and sympathy. Constantly dealing with someone who always plays the victim can be incredibly draining. You might find yourself feeling guilty, like you're not doing enough to help them, or you might start to feel responsible for their happiness. Either way, it's a heavy burden to carry. One of the most important things to remember when dealing with an eternal victim is this: you are not responsible for their feelings or their situation. It might sound harsh, but it's true. Each of us is responsible for our own life and our own happiness. So what can you do when you encounter an eternal victim? One approach is to gently encourage them to take responsibility for their situation. Instead of simply agreeing with their complaints, try asking questions that prompt them to think about solutions. "That sounds really tough. What do you think you could do to improve the situation?" It's also important to set clear boundaries. You can be supportive without getting pulled into their drama. It's okay to say, "I care about you, and I'm here to support you, but I can't take on the responsibility of solving this for you." Remember, it's not selfish to protect your own energy. In fact, by maintaining your positive vibration, you're in a much better position to be a positive influence on others. You can't lift someone else up if you're being dragged down. Now, let's talk about a sign that can be particularly painful: the person who seems unhappy or tries to bring you down when you're growing or succeeding. This is the growth saboteur. Imagine this scenario. You've just achieved something you've been working towards for a long time. Maybe you got a promotion at work, or you finally started that business you've been dreaming about. You're excited, proud of yourself, and eager to share your joy with your friends. But when you tell your friend Sarah, her response is less than enthusiastic. "Oh, that's nice," she says, with a forced smile. "I guess some people have all the luck." Growth saboteurs might not always be so obvious. Sometimes their attempts to bring you down are more subtle. They might make backhanded compliments. "Wow, I'm surprised you managed to do that." Or they might try to minimize your achievements. "Oh, is that all? I thought you were going to say something really exciting." Here's the thing. When someone reacts negatively to your growth or success, it usually has nothing to do with you. It's about their own fears and insecurities. They might be afraid that your success will change your relationship, or they might be unhappy with their own lack of progress. As a high vibrational person, this situation can be particularly challenging. Your natural instinct is to lift others up, to share your light and positivity. It can be confusing and hurtful when someone you care about doesn't seem to want that for you. It's important to approach this situation with compassion, both for yourself and for the other person. Remember, their reaction is about them, not you. At the same time, you don't have to diminish your own light to make others comfortable. One way to handle this is to be selective about who you share your successes with, especially in the early stages. Surround yourself with people who genuinely celebrate your wins. These are the people who will fuel your growth, not try to stifle it. If the growth saboteur is someone close to you, it might be worth having an open, honest conversation with them. Share how their reactions make you feel, and try to understand what's behind their behavior. Sometimes, bringing these feelings into the open can lead to positive change. Remember, no one has the power to dim your light unless you let them. Your growth, your success, your happiness, these belong to you. Don't let anyone else's insecurities or negativity hold you back from becoming the best version of yourself. Let's move on to our next sign, the person who's all talk and no action. You know the type. They make big promises but never follow through. This is the promise breaker. Picture this. Your friend Tom is always full of big ideas and grand plans. "We should totally start a podcast together," he says one day. "I've got all these great ideas. Let's meet up next week and plan it out." You're excited. It sounds like a fun project. But when next week rolls around, Tom is nowhere to be found. He doesn't return your calls or messages. When you finally do hear from him, he's got a laundry list of excuses and a new exciting plan he wants to tell you about. Dealing with a promise breaker can be incredibly frustrating. They get you excited about plans or possibilities, only to let you down time and time again. It's like being on an emotional roller coaster, up with excitement when they make their promises, down with disappointment when they fail to follow through. Here's the real danger of the promise breaker. Over time, they erode your trust, not just in them, but potentially in others as well. You might find yourself becoming more cynical, less willing to believe in people's words. And for a high vibrational person like you, that loss of trust and optimism can be particularly painful. It's important to remember this. Actions speak louder than words. A person's true character and intentions are revealed not by what they say, but by what they do. Someone who consistently fails to follow through on their promises is showing you something important about who they are. So, how do you deal with a promise breaker? One approach is to adjust your expectations. When they make a big promise or exciting plan, respond with something like, "That sounds interesting. Let me know when you've taken the first step, and then we can talk more about it." This puts the ball in their court and protects you from disappointment. It's also okay to address the issue directly. You could say something like, "I've noticed that often when we make plans, they don't end up happening. Is there a reason for that?" This opens up a conversation about their behavior without being accusatory. Remember, it's not your job to change someone else's behavior. You can communicate your feelings and set your boundaries, but ultimately, it's up to them to follow through or not. What you can control is how much you invest, emotionally and otherwise, in their promises. As a high vibrational person, you likely place a high value on integrity and reliability. It's okay to surround yourself with people who share those values. In fact, it's essential for maintaining your own positive energy and trust in the world. Finally, make a promise to yourself to be a person of your word. When you say you'll do something, do it. This not only builds trust in your relationships, but also reinforces your own sense of integrity and self-respect. Remember, recognizing these signs doesn't make you any less kind or spiritual. It makes you wise. By being aware of how others might be using or affecting your energy, you're better equipped to maintain your high vibration and make a positive impact in the world. In our next and final sign, we'll explore perhaps the most fundamental imbalance in relationships, when there's no reciprocity. Stay tuned, because understanding this could transform how you approach all your interactions. Let's dive into our final sign, the person who never reciprocates. This is perhaps the most fundamental imbalance in relationships, and it's crucial for high vibrational people to recognize. We're talking about the one-way street relationship. Imagine you're like the giving tree from the famous children's book. You're always there, always giving your time, your energy, your support, your resources. But unlike the tree in the story, you're a living, breathing person with your own needs and limits. And the person you're giving to, they're always taking, never giving back. Think about your friend Lisa. Whenever she's going through a tough time, you're there. Late night phone calls to talk her through a crisis? You're on it. Watching her kids so she can have a break? No problem. Lending her money when she's short? You've got her back. But when you're the one having a rough day, when you need a listening ear or a helping hand, Lisa is mysteriously unavailable. Relationships are like emotional bank accounts. Healthy relationships have a balance of deposits and withdrawals. But in a one-way street relationship, you're constantly making deposits while the other person is only making withdrawals. Over time, this leaves you emotionally and energetically bankrupt. For high vibrational people, this situation can be particularly challenging. Your natural inclination is to give, to help, to support. You find joy in lifting others up. But when this giving isn't reciprocated, it can lead to resentment, burnout, and a dimming of your own light. Often the lack of reciprocity isn't just about big favors or emergencies. It's about the day-to-day emotional labor. Are you always the one reaching out to make plans? Are you the one who remembers birthdays and checks in when they're having a tough time? This invisible labor can be exhausting, especially when it's not reciprocated. Here's an important truth to remember. Healthy relationships involve give and take. It's not about keeping score, but there should be a general sense of balance over time. Both people should feel supported, valued, and cared for. When you consistently give more than you receive in a relationship, it can chip away at your self-worth. You might start to feel like you're only valued for what you can do for others, not for who you are. Remember, you are inherently worthy of love, care, and support, not because of what you do for others, but simply because you exist. So how do you recognize if a relationship lacks reciprocity? Take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Over time, do you feel like the relationship energizes you or drains you? Do you feel seen and supported or invisible and taken for granted? If you recognize a lack of reciprocity in a relationship, it's worth having a conversation about it. You might say something like, "I've noticed that I often feel drained after we spend time together. I wonder if we could find ways to support each other more equally." It's also important to set boundaries. It's okay to say no sometimes. It's okay to ask for what you need. It's okay to expect support in return for the support you give. Remember, setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary for maintaining healthy relationships and your own well-being. Think of your energy as a precious resource because it is. You need to be mindful of where you're allocating it. It's okay to invest more energy in relationships that are mutually supportive and fulfilling. It's also okay to step back from relationships that consistently drain you without giving anything in return. Remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. Prioritizing your own self-care isn't selfish, it's necessary. When you take care of yourself, when you ensure your own cup is full, you have so much more to give to others. As we wrap up our exploration of these 7 signs, it's important to take a moment to reflect. Recognizing these signs in your relationships can be challenging. It might bring up difficult emotions or force you to confront uncomfortable truths. But remember, this awareness is a gift. It's the first step towards creating healthier, more balanced relationships and protecting your precious energy. By being aware of these signs, the fair weather friend, the energy vampire, the boundary pusher, the eternal victim, the growth saboteur, the promise breaker, and the one-way street, you're empowering yourself. You're taking control of your energy and your relationships. As you move forward, remember to approach these situations with compassion, both for yourself and for others. Often, people who exhibit these behaviors are struggling with their own issues. Your awareness doesn't mean you need to cut them out of your life entirely, unless that's what's best for you. Sometimes, an honest conversation and clear boundaries can transform a relationship. As a high vibrational person, your energy is one of your greatest gifts to the world. By learning to protect and manage your energy, you're not becoming less giving or less spiritual. In fact, you're enhancing your ability to be a positive force in the world. When your own cup is full, you have so much more to share with others. Remember, recognizing these signs and changing your patterns is a journey. It takes time, practice, and patience. Be gentle with yourself as you navigate this path. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small it might seem. Think of yourself as a steward of your own energy. You have the right and the responsibility to manage it wisely. This means nurturing relationships that lift you up, setting boundaries with those who drain you, and always making time for your own self-care and growth. As you learn to protect your energy and create healthier relationships, you'll likely notice something amazing. Your light will shine even brighter. You'll have more to give to the people and causes that truly matter to you. And you'll be setting an example for others, showing them what healthy, balanced relationships look like. Protecting your energy isn't a one-time thing. It's an ongoing practice. Keep checking in with yourself. How do you feel after spending time with certain people? Are your relationships balanced? Are you making time for your own needs and growth? These regular check-ins will help you stay on track. Remember, you have the power to shape your relationships and your life. You don't have to be a victim of energy vampires or toxic relationships. You can choose to surround yourself with people who lift you up, who celebrate your growth, who give as much as they receive. As you move forward, armed with this knowledge and awareness, imagine the possibilities. Imagine a life filled with balanced, supportive relationships. Imagine having the energy to pursue your dreams and make a positive impact in the world. This is not just a fantasy. It's entirely within your reach. So, high vibrational friend, go forth with confidence. Trust your intuition. Honor your boundaries. Protect your energy. And watch as your world transforms, one relationship at a time. You've got this, and the world is better for having your bright light in it. Keep shining.